Welcome to another episode of the Ginger ROAMance. Here, you'll hear anonymous stories from travellers all over the world. Real submissions from real people. Tales of connection, romance, passion, heartbreak, friendship, and love in all its forms. Because every kind of love deserves to be told. This week on the Ginger ROAMance, we share a friendship story set in Ninh Binh, Vietnam. This is a story about unexpected friendship, timing, and the kind of connection that doesn't need labels to change you forever. Not romance, but something just as powerful. Let's get into it. I was in Hanoi, right at the start of my plan to make my way south through Vietnam over a month. I only had a few days there, so I booked a couple of day trips. Halong Bay, Ninh Binh, the usuals. The morning of the Ninh Binh trip, I got picked up on one of those motorbikes with the little cart attached. We grabbed a few more people along the way before getting dropped at a random corner to wait for the actual bus. One of the guys we picked up, he was attractive, Mexican, and of course, he was a model. We got chatting while we waited, and he mentioned he was meeting a friend in Ninh Binh who'd be joining us for the tour. Cool. Whatever. I didn't think much of it. We got there after the long bus ride, and his friend was waiting. And honestly, she was something else. Just radiant. One of those people with an energy that pulls you in straight away. We rented bikes to cycle through the mountains, and at some point, she just rode up next to me and started chatting like we'd known each other for ages. The three of us ended up sticking together all day, cycling, boating through the caves, just taking it all in. But it wasn't until we were sitting at a cafe before heading back to Hanoi that things shifted. The conversation got real. We started talking about why we were travelling. I had just gone through a very interesting time of my life, and so had she. She told me she'd just divorced her husband and decided to go on a 6-month first-class trip around the world. I remember just saying, "Congratulations." She paused, smiled, and said, "Thank you. You have no idea how much that means. Everyone else says, 'Oh, I'm sorry.' But this is the best decision I have ever made." That stuck with me. We talked about our travel plans in Vietnam, and we realised our itineraries were almost identical, just slightly offset by a day or two. So we swapped contacts and said we'd meet up again somewhere down the line. A few days later, I landed in Hue, and I messaged her, not really expecting much. You never know in those situations. People could just be being polite in suggesting to meet up again. But I had nothing to lose. She replied within minutes, and we made plans to meet that night. She already had dinner plans with some other travellers, so I joined. It was easy, natural. The next day, we booked a walking street food tour, and it ended up being just the two of us. That's when I really got to know her. She was sharp, like seriously smart. She spoke multiple languages, had lived all over, and was just impressive in a way that didn't feel forced. The friendship started to take shape. I was meant to be in Hue for a few more days, while she headed to Da Nang. But as I was out on another tour, I learned that there was a typhoon coming straight for us. Everyone was being told to leave the area. So that's what I did. I booked a bus and headed to Da Nang the following day. We stayed at the same hotel, and when I arrived, I found her chilling by the rooftop pool like it was any normal day. That night, we went out, met up with some people she knew, and did a trivia night. And this is where I realized just how smart she actually was. She carried the team completely. We didn't win, but it didn't matter. Afterwards, we went to this outdoor bar with a live band and karaoke. Drinks were flowing, everyone was dancing, and then she just gets up on stage like it's nothing. And she can sing. Like properly sing. I remember just standing there thinking, what can't you do? It turned into one of those nights that you don't want to end. The next morning, with brutal hangovers, we learned that the typhoon had changed direction and was coming straight for Da Nang. Perfect timing to have a lazy, hungover day. We spent the day recovering, then dragged ourselves to the spa. Sauna, steam room, sweating out all of our sins from the night before. The next day, we went to Hoi An. We stayed in different hotels this time, as I wanted to be close to the centre and she wanted to be a bit further out. But we saw each other every day. Coffee, cycling, getting clothes tailored, going to cooking classes, and eating way too much good food. It just worked. Same rhythm, same pace. We could hang out all day or do our own thing and meet up later. It was just effortless. One night, we found this random little bar with a karaoke setup upstairs. Now, I don't do karaoke. I'm shy, but most importantly, I'm terrible. But no one else was there. So we ended up singing old songs we used to listen to as teenagers, like full throwbacks. The friendship hit a new level when we realised we both loved System of a Down. We stayed for hours, laughing, drinking, completely unfiltered. And then we went back the next night and did it all again. After that, I headed to Dalat. She was meant to go to Nha Trang, and we said we'd meet up again in Ho Chi Minh. A day or two later, she messaged me. Nha Trang wasn't it. She was coming to Dalat. I was so happy. We did everything. Waterfalls, this weird place called Mongoland, the Alpine coaster, just full chaos and fun. Then finally, we were headed to Ho Chi Minh. We caught the sleeper bus together before we made our way to different districts. But that didn't stop us from seeing each other. We still spent our last few days together. Food tours, playing pool, wandering the city, and meeting random people. Our last night, yeah, it was sad, but it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like I had made a lifelong friend. Because the whole time, every conversation had been fire. Deep, stupid, philosophical, hilarious. It didn't matter. It just flowed, like we'd known each other way longer than a few weeks. We've tried to meet up again since, but timing hasn't worked out. But I know we will. And when we do, it'll be like no time has passed. That's where the story ends, but not where my thoughts do. When I say every kind of love deserves to be told, I'm not just talking about romantic love. This is exactly what I mean. Because there's something so undeniable about these kind of connections, where it's not about attraction, it's not about labels, it's just this deep, instant recognition of another person. And honestly, I think friendships like this can hit even harder. They're rare, they're unexpected, and when they happen, they stay with you in a completely different way. But here's a question for you. Why do we fight so hard to hold on to romantic connections, yet we let friendships like this drift when the timing doesn't line up? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll catch you in next week's episode. Thanks for listening.
Make sure you're following along to keep up to date with weekly stories that will inspire, entertain, and maybe even make you fall in love with the idea of love itself. Got your own romance story and want to be a part of the Ginger Romance community? Check the notes for details on how to submit your own.